how my client made an extra $40,000 in her online business in just a few months after being stuck at freaking 2K or 3K a month, right? And everyone always thinks that it's like a strategy that we put in place, like Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, or suddenly she was like heavily changed onto like YouTube, or that she did all this networking. And the truth is, none of that happened, right? We didn't do some sort of big change in marketing plan. There was no new sales strategy. That is not what got her to literally have that massive quantum leap in revenue. And today I'm going to break down exactly what she did, exactly what we did in our coaching for her to create that level of a revenue leap. And I'm so excited for you because I know that if you put this in place for yourself, if you freaking implement this yourself, your revenue is also going to absolute catapult. Like, it's going to skyrocket. It's going to go through the freaking roof. I've seen this again and again and again with my clients, and I've seen this in my own life and business as well. So this is the thing. It was not, as I said, some sort of strategy thing. It wasn't a new marketing plan. What we did was what I like to call identity mindset work, right? And I'm going to break it down straight away for you because I like to just get into it and I just want you to use this, okay? I want you to use this. So when I met her, as I said, she was already running her business, running her online business. She'd been, consistent-ish, online. She was at the time mostly on Facebook and Instagram. She would be creating videos and reels. And at the time, I think it was like live streams and things that were still going on quite a bit. And she was making, $2,000, $3,000 a month. She did have clients. She did sometimes have repeat clients, but she just felt really plateaued. Like, she felt really stuck at that kind of 2K, 3K mark. And when I met her, I could tell she was hungry. I could tell she wanted something more. I could tell she was ambitious. And like there was this like internal fire, this like drive, but I could also really feel like she was holding back. And I didn't really know in what way because obviously I hadn't coached her yet, but I felt like, yeah, you're holding back. There's a part of you that's still kind of like reserved. It feels like there's like a bit of a facade going on, but I don't really know what it is yet. And you don't feel like you're completely fully like free, like freely living, freely showing up, just serving, there wasn't that, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So we got started. We worked together one-on-one together. And I dove in. Month one, the biggest focus we had was her vision. So this is what tends to happen with people is you have a dream, you have a vision, you have this like business goal, you have these like revenue goals, you've got these impact goals, and you're really excited, and understandably, like, this is your calling, this is your mission, this is your purpose, this is your company, like, you're so pumped, right? But then what tends to happen is naturally there's failure, right? Flops, things don't go to plan. Like, you expect to make all this money or all this impact and then you get crickets. Or you do see a few results, but they're kind of like lackluster. Or you do get some like a big month, but then it goes back down and you keep kind of hitting the same numbers. Or you feel like you hit a plateau. Or maybe a bunch of clients leave. Or you do see a surplus, but then suddenly there's like a massive slowdown. All of these little and big things, or even clients leaving, clients asking for refunds, problems in your team, employee problem, like you name it, so many things, right? But those things can start kind of eroding your confidence and make you question whether or not you really can do it, right? It makes you, it can, not everyone, but you can make up meanings and stories about the fact that you've failed too many times, you've flopped so many times, you haven't seen the results that you want enough, like you haven't seen consistent clients, or you've seen consistent clients but not at the level that you want, or not at the price range that you want, or you feel like the clients that you do get, it's not been the ones that you wanted, and so on and so forth. And that can cause you to like lack confidence and lack conviction in your vision the way that maybe you did in the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, there were no obstacles. There was just pure possibility and like, I'm gonna go do this. I've got this big mission. I've got this big calling. Let's go. There's like a fire in your belly and you are just ready to absolutely just like go raring, just like playing full throttle. You're all in. You feel like you're just willing and desiring to do all of these crazy things, and you're bold and audacious because you haven't experienced that many like setbacks, right? You haven't experienced like that much like that many obstacles. So that was her, right? And so I feel like this is uneven and it's driving me nuts. Okay. And so what was really interesting with her is we delved into her vision, right? And we were like, okay, let's forget the failures you think you've had and the the flops and the launches that haven't worked out and the sales that you haven't made and the clients that didn't re-sign. For just a second, let's put all of that on the table. Let's just put that over here. Let's set it away. And I want you to tell me what you want. Like, really audaciously tell me what you freaking want. Like, tell me what you desire from the deepest of your heart. Like, your soul, what does it want? What does it crave? What does it desire? And if, you hadn't had all this failure and all of this lack in confidence and all of this stuff go down, what would you freaking desire? What do you still want? What do you really deeply, deeply desire? Like, if anything were possible and you felt ridiculously like sassy and audacious and ambitious again and you just went for it, what would you ask for? What would you desire? And she just like blurted out all this stuff. She's like, I want this and I want this and I want this, right? So we delve deeper into her vision, her dreams, her desires, her cravings, her soul wants, the things that she deeply desired, even if they didn't make sense to other people, but that she was like, I want this. I desire this for my business. She was talking about the money she wanted, the clients she wanted, the lifestyle she wanted, the place she wanted to live in, how she wanted to feel, what her work was going to look like, her days, what she desired, what she wanted, how she wanted to start a day, how she wanted to end her day. She told me how much money she wanted to be saving and investing and growing. She was just like so willing to share because we had taken off all of the like fears and limitations and even the past stuff. We were just like, let's just put that to the side because that can flavor the vision and the desires and the hunger, right? So then once she told me like all the things that she deeply, deeply desired, then at the end of month 1 and starting in month 2, we were like, okay, because we spent some time on that and we started also looking at some of the blocks, right? Because things came up like, maybe I can't have this. Maybe I'm crazy to want this. Like, who am I to ask for this? Like, am I cut out for this? It's failed in the past. I've failed in the past. I haven't seen results before. Why will it be any different this time? Maybe I'm a bad person. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe I'm not worthy of this. What if I get it and lose it? What if I have to work harder? What if I have to put in even more time? Like, I'm already tired. I'm already drained. Like, what if I have to do more? What if I have to give up time with my family? And on and on and on. What if people don't like me? What if they judge me? What if, so there were suddenly these blocks and these feelings and these limiting beliefs that popped up. And so we approached those as we went, right, in month 1. And I helped her dissolve those blocks and dissolve those limiting beliefs, right? And that's for another video. But that's what we did in month 1. Vision. But like, go big, audaciously. Like, what does she desire? Dream big. Doesn't matter what's happened up until now. Like, let's go nuts. Let's go nuts being audacious. In the end of month 1 and start of month 2, we then went into identity. So obviously this is a massive topic, but to keep it nice and concise and short, it was basically like, if you were already living that life, and this is why it's so powerful to get a coach when it comes to this, because having someone else ask you and like really be like look in your eyes and be like, what do you freaking want and who do you need to become to be the person who naturally receives that is so powerful, right? So that's what I asked her. I said, okay, so imagine you have that. Imagine you have the vision, the dreams, the desires, the money, the sales, the clients, the lifestyle. Imagine you have everything you've ever freaking wanted. Imagine it's all now here in your life. You have it in your reality. You have it in your day-to-day. Your business is exactly the way you want it. The savings are growing. You're overflowing with money. You've got so much impact. You're serving so many people. You're helping so many people. So many people are thanking you for your help, for your company, for your brand. And you're in that space and you're having the time of your freaking life and you're unstoppable and you feel incredible. Now that you're there, who is that version of you? So that's what we dug into in month 2. I really went into, who is that version of you? Like, what does she think about herself? What does she believe about herself? How does she feel about herself? When she looks at herself in the mirror, what does she see? What does she say to herself? What is her internal dialogue? Identity, right? So that version of her, what are her standards? What are her standards when it comes to showing up, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to selling, when it comes to managing other people, when it comes to serving clients, when it comes to, showing up in her life, showing up in the morning, movement, meditation? Like, what are her daily rituals? What are her non-negotiables? And then we went even deeper. We were like, okay, that version of you, that identity of you, who already has this massive life, this crazy business, this beautiful, beautiful lifestyle, this amazing amount of travel, these incredible soul-aligned clients, that version of you who already has it, what does she no longer tolerate? So What are the habits that she doesn't tolerate? Maybe it's like doom scrolling. Maybe it's spending like hours on Netflix. Maybe it's watching something on Reels over and over again. Maybe it's something else. It's like, what does she no longer tolerate? But even going deeper, what thoughts does she no longer tolerate? So it doesn't mean the thoughts are not going to pop into your head, but the version of you that is absolutely crushing it, killing it, has the life that you want, has the dreams that you want, she does not tolerate those thoughts in the sense that she does not dwell in them. They might pop into her head, but she's like, no, we don't perceive that here. That is not tolerated here. It's like unsubscribe. It's like I unsubscribe to that thing. It's not coming into my consciousness, right? And so that is, what we dug into in month 2. We really looked at who do you need to become to freaking lock in that future? Who do you need to become to naturally receive that? Not to have to earn it, but who is the version of you that naturally just has those results, just has those clients, just has that money, just has that lifestyle? Like, what is she like? What beliefs does she hold about money? What beliefs does she hold about clients? What beliefs does she hold about other people? What beliefs does she hold about creating success and growing her business? What does she believe about sales? What does she believe about marketing? Right? What does she believe about herself? What does she believe is possible for herself? That version of her, what are the patterns that she just like no longer allows? So maybe there are certain things that you still do that it's like the version of you that is already calling in that next level of client, that next level of sale, that next level of revenue. She's just like, I don't tolerate that. So it doesn't mean that you might not have like, let's say something happens in your business, like a launch flops, or a client leaves, or you get a refund request, or somebody decides that they decide against working with you, whatever it might be. In that moment, the old version of you is probably responding and reacting to that in a very particular way, telling yourself, oh, it never works. Oh, this always happens to me. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? I'm still not there yet. Look at my results. This is so frustrating. Why does it never work for me? Like, why is this taking so long? It's taken forever. Will this ever work? Like there's not enough clients to see. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to find more clients? It's that sort of vibe, right? Whereas again, if you think about the version of you that already has the money, the sales, the clients, the business, the lifestyle that you freaking dream of, she's not responding and reacting in the same way. She's not responding that way. She's not reacting like that. If when like a client leaves or there's a refund request or something else happens, she notices that. She's not in denial. She acknowledges the situation, but she doesn't make it mean something about her. And she doesn't allow her mind to just spiral into some sort of story about there's never enough, like this always happens to me, it never works, etc. Right? She's like, I don't have time for that. I have a huge freaking business to run. I have a mission. I have a calling. I have people to serve. I'm here to impact people. Like, I've got a place to go. I don't have time to basically like worry about my future or worry that something bad's gonna happen. I have a vision, a mission, a calling. Like, I'm out there crushing it. I'm out there killing it. I'm out there serving people. I'm out there making a big ass impact. I don't have time to go back and be like, oh no, that didn't work, so that must mean that I'm a bad person. That must mean that I'm not cut out for this. That must mean that, it never works for me. Like, she just doesn't spend time dwelling into those narratives, those stories, those limiting beliefs. She notices the thought, but she's like, no, we're going to make it mean something different. I'm going to choose what this means for me. That event's happened. What does that mean? It means I'm this much closer to my growth, or I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm like literally excited to see what comes next. Like, imagine what this is going to bring. Or she says, how can I see this as an opportunity? What is great about this problem, as Tony Robbins would say? Like, what is phenomenal about this challenge? Like, what can I learn from this? How can I gain from this? How can I turn this into gold? How can I turn this into an opportunity? Do you see how those different versions of you would start creating very, very different results? This version is going to absolutely kill it, crush it. She's going to make even more sales that day. This version of you is going to like just like go back down to like getting the same results she did last month. Do you know what I mean? So in month 2, that's what we spent so much time honing in on our weekly coaching calls together, is we looked at like, who does she need to become? How does she need to think? What does she need to believe about herself? What are her standards? What are her non-negotiables? What are her rituals? What are her daily habits? What are her routines? How does she respond to events? How does she respond to circumstances that are unfavorable? How does she respond to uncertainty in her life or in her business? How does she trust herself? Like, all of it. And we did go into the nitty-gritty, because the truth is, life is gonna life. You're gonna get results that surprise you. You're gonna have unpredictable events. Both your kids are gonna be sick the same week just when you're about to launch something, Your husband's gonna be in a mood. Your mom's gonna call you with something that's really important right when you thought you were gonna be able to crush it, and suddenly you have to change everything. Like, life is going to life. So it's not about, like, you can't pause life and you can't stop life and you can't expect it to just be rainbows and freaking unicorns all the time, right? You and I both know that. We've been, like, on the planet long enough to know that, like, stuff goes down. And that's why it's even more critical to be so honed in and so locked in on the next level identity, the version of you and the identity who already holds that vision, who already has that vision, who's already living in that vision and receiving those results. That version of you, if the cleaner it is, the more, like, distinctive it is, the more obvious it is, the more specific and in the detail it is, the easier it's going to be for you to embody it, which is what we're going to talk about for month 3. But also, the easier it's going to be for you to deal with all of those low moments or those situations that are really genuinely difficult and that bring natural resistance in your day-to-day and your life and business. So then once we'd done that, that's when we started seeing results, to be honest, right? Already, month 2. And then in month 3 of our one-on-one program, that's when we were like, okay, embodiment. So I would ask her questions like, let me ask you, like, so I'd be like, let me ask you this. Imagine you're already there. You already have these insane clients. You already have this amazing amount of cash flow coming in. You already have these incredible opportunities literally pouring into your life every single day. Money is flowing in, sales flowing in, clients flowing in, amazing raving testimonials every single freaking day. Imagine all of that is happening as we speak, okay? If that were the case, what actions would you be taking today? And she'd be like, I know exactly what I'd be doing. Because that's the thing, right? If that's a frame, right? It's a context. It's like, okay, this is the perspective. This is what's going on in your life. This is the lens. What would you be doing in that frame? What actions would you be taking? Who would you be being? What steps would you be taking today if you were already there? And she'd be like, I'd be doing this, I'd be doing that, I'd be doing that. Like, great, go do it. I'll see you next week. So the next week I'd come in and be like, how did that go? Obviously there'd be hiccups. There'd be pop-up stories, like limiting beliefs, blocks, fears, worries that would have come up potentially, right? Because, hey, we're human and this is normal. That's why you have a coach as well. And I would delve with them on that. I would coach on that. I would help her dissolve any blocks, fears, limiting beliefs that she had. Sometimes we go back into the past if we need to, if it's like a belief that's like really rooted quite deep, and we go into the body and we do some embodiment work and embodiment practices. And then I'd be like, okay, great. Like, okay, again, remind me, like, what do you want? We'd get back into the vision, back into the identity. Like, are there any beliefs that you'd have that are different? Would you be thinking anything different? And now let's go into embodiment again, like action, like I always come back to who would you be being? But more importantly, like on that day, I'd be like, or that week, I'd be like, okay, if you were already her, what actions would you be taking yesterday? Like, what actions would you be taking, like, right freaking now? And she always knew what the answer was, because that's the thing, is like, when you are taking that perspective and you're like saying, like, if I was here, if this was me, if I was living this life, if I already had these results, if that was you, then what would you be doing? What action would you be taking? Suddenly it becomes so apparent, so obvious, so clear, the steps that you would be taking and the actions that you would be moving forward on. And so that's what I would bring to her. I would be like, okay, cool, let's go. And so she would come up with the actions. I'd be like, great, go take those freaking actions. Discomfort is normal. It's normal to feel uncomfortable and nervous and to feel like, oh my God, I'm out of my comfort zone. But that's the whole point, right? If it felt super, super safe all the time and really non-risky and really comfortable, then it's probably not something that is truly your next level self, because it's probably your old self, right? Because your old self's like, I'm really comfortable with all of these things. So suddenly if you're like taking these kinds of actions, it brings up stuff like, oh my gosh, like, what if it doesn't work? What if this? What if that? Like, nervous energy, uncomfortable energy. Suddenly you feel shy. Suddenly you're like, oh, this makes me feel uncomfortable in my tummy. I'm like worried. It's still totally in alignment, because it's coming from a place of like your vision, your dreams, your soul, your values, right? So it's coming from your core values. But that doesn't change that it can't be at times like uncomfortable, because it's new, it's different, it's you stepping out of that comfort circle that you've maybe been in for a really long time or even a few months, right? So she would go off and take those actions, and then the following week we'd jump on a coaching call together, and I would dive in, and I'd be like, what, okay, tell me, like, what's going on with you? Like, what's happening? You know, did you take those actions? Yes, amazing. If not, why? What's going on? Like, tell me how you're feeling. When you took those actions, how did you feel? So really digging into the integration, right? And I think this is something that a lot of us skip, because identity is so critical. The beliefs are so important. The thinking process is so important. The embodiment and the energetics is so important. Like embodying the frequency and the energy of already having it. But then if you're not actually activating that identity by taking new action and different action and action from a different embodiment and energetic, then you're not going to be creating different results, right? Because then it's kind of like, it's like, this is something that I found myself in this sort of like trap for a little while, is that I was doing so much meditation and so much visualization, and that was great. But then I got a little bit in my head, and I was kind of like all up there, like it was very space, like I felt very floaty and like in like space kind of, you know, because you're just doing loads of meditation, and that's great. I love meditation, and I would still recommend doing meditation every day. But ultimately, it's like we don't want to be so spacey that then we're not in this real world now and like taking actual action, right? So that is something that we really honed in on in month 3, is like, now let's action integrate. And also, when the blocks show up, the fears, the beliefs, the BS, and also the events, like circumstances that are not, you know, favorable, how do I approach that? How do I respond to that? How do I, and also get coaching on, right? Like I coached her around anything that would kind of slow the process down, you know, the little blocks, the little fears, the worries, the insecurities, the feeling of like, I'm not good enough. I mean, that's a whole other video, but ultimately we delved into that. And then, so not surprise, but like 3 or 4 months in, so we worked together, I think it was like 3 or 4 months in the end. By the end of it, yeah, she literally sent me a message that said, I have made an additional $40,000 in my business. And she said, like, honestly, it's, you know, also thanks to your coaching. Like, obviously I was like, look, you did it, you did the work. And it was amazing and it was insane, but also it made perfect sense, because if you saw her at the end of our program, whether it was 3 or 4 months or whatever, versus like the very beginning of the program, it was a different woman. You know, the woman who'd been very like reserved and like held back and like a bit serious, like she kind of felt like she had to be really polished and professional and all that stuff. And those were stories and beliefs we broke into during her coaching, versus the woman who at the end of the 3 or 4 months, she was just like extroverted and like so funky and like funny and vivacious and like bubbly and excited and like alive. She felt so free, you know, and she was being so authentically her. And I, you know, when she would show up on videos and reels and marketing plans and emails and everything that she was doing, it was just so alive with energy, and it was so authentically her. And I think that was one of the many reasons that it attracted so many sudden clients, because it was she was suddenly free to be her, but also she was now in total conviction around herself, around her business, and around her offers, because that's something else we do a lot of work around, which I'll do another video on. But basically it was like all of those different pieces. It was like the vision, the identity, and the actual action and integration. And then combined with that, it was coaching around the blocks and the limiting beliefs and the fears and the insecurities that came along the way, and becoming so convicted in who she was and what it was she was offering, so that when she was selling, like nobody could hold her back. Like she was like, I can't wait to sell this, because she just really believed in it. She had this like next level certainty and belief around what she was selling and pitching, and so people were like, I'm in, right? So that is what I wanted to share with you today. It was like, it's so powerful to share this with you, and I love talking about this, and it's why I love to do this work, because it's like such a powerful and beautiful internal transformation, and then naturally that then flows outward into the real world in terms of actual tangible results, in this case, you know, 40K in money. And yeah, but to be honest as well, when I saw her face and her happiness and her laughter and her being fully herself, I mean, that in itself was like, just incredible, just absolutely incredible. So anyway, what I'd love to do is I would love to hear from you. So tell me in the comments, like, what made sense to you? What are you, surprised about? What would you love to know more about? Tell me in the comments. And also tell me like how you're going to use this yourself in your own freaking business, because you have a big ass dream. You have a vision, you have desires, you have goals. So like, what are you going to do with all this breakdown, right? This is your chance to do this. This is your space to do this. So let me know in the comments how you're going to use this identity mindset work to absolutely quantum leap yourself to that next level of freaking revenue. Look, if you had met her in the very beginning, you would not necessarily been like, oh yeah, definitely, she'll definitely get there. Whereas at the end of like the 3 or 4 months, you're like, oh my God, of course that one makes like crazy levels of money, right? And so I guess I just want to remind you that even if right now you're doubting yourself, you feel a bit insecure, you're questioning your ability to crush in business, to hit that next level of revenue, please understand that everyone feels that way at different stages of their business, right? And at different stages of their dream. And that in itself is not a reflection of your potential. You have insane levels of potential. You have insane levels of power. What you want is freaking available, doable, and realistic. Even if it feels huge, even if it feels far away, even if right now you haven't achieved the things you thought you would by now, and you feel like you're behind, or you feel like it's taking forever, or you feel like it's really slow, please understand that that's just how it feels sometimes. But get freaking coaching or do this kind of identity mindset work, because it will change the game for you. You will start moving differently. You will start thinking differently. You will start embodying a different version of you. And that will naturally start shaping your life, shaping your business, and literally reflecting very different results, different revenue, different clients, different sales, and so on. So regardless of where you're at, this is available to you. I just really want you to understand that. It does require a different identity, and that's still being you, but it's just a next level version of you. But it's possible, and it's doable, and it's available, and I just want you to absolutely crush it. So I will see you on the next video. Let me know in the comments, any questions that you have, but also how you're gonna freaking use this yourself. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next video.